Cheering
There's
for early
applause that just came through.
Yeah.
John using an audio switchboard or some sort of audio board.
Yeah, I'm gonna get some Ben Olsen quotes. That's really what needs to happen. I can upload media. I've been saying that for 3 years.
Yeah, man, we got to get some. I do have when I was doing my RP Refugees, I did pull across some like soundboard edits of like Dave Johnson and goal calls when I was trying to do Football Manager, which didn't end up really coming to be a regular thing. But I still created like a little soundboard that I could use. So
let's put that over here. Anyway, hi everybody. How are you doing?
Hope everybody's doing. Hope you're doing well in the chat. Hope you're watching us here. Twitch, Twitter. I don't think we're on Instagram, but Facebook, I think we're still working on. We need some more people. So go follow us on Facebook if you're still old
on the fence
and using Facebook. John, how you doing, my friend? How has your holiday weekend been?
It's good today. When I think producer Brian would know, like your weekends with a young child on holidays. Basically, I went to a playground for like 3 hours, and then I got ice cream, and then I made hamburgers. That was my whole day. That was good. I'm not complaining either. There was 2 games of soccer, which we're going to talk about, which were both pretty interesting, and I didn't have to leave my house for, which I'm a big fan of both of those. So I had a little bit of a break from going to Audi Field, which ends in 6 days because they are playing Saturday afternoon at Audi Field. How was your weekend?
It was good. It was. I went to actually took a small trip up to Northern Virginia to a gender reveal party for 2 friends of ours. Did not get confirmation on which national team they think their kid will be playing. They have a choice of 3 of 3 different nations. So.
Nice.
But did not get confirmation of that. So I will keep you abreast of that situation. No,
there were no forest fires or anything resulting from this
no,
reveal. Good.
No, that was the call I put out. I said, all right, let's not trend on TikTok. Let's not become a front page story on the Washington Post. We don't need any of that. If we don't do that, we'll be good. No,
we don't want to see any article that says guest of the reveal party, Ted Meyer, co-host of RFK Refugees. We don't want that in the news.
Yes, I have a reputation exactly. to protect. So, but no, that was good. It was good to see them. I got to see, some of their friends who I met, through the wedding, who I hadn't seen in a little bit. So, it was fun. It was a nice experience. Got to see they just got a new house, so I got to get some.
Stafford, Ted.
What's that?
Did you go past my house?
I did go past Stafford. Sorry,
didn't
John.
Even say hi. It's fine. It's whatever.
I'll work on being better. But we got games to talk about. We got people complain we talk too much about other stuff. So we kept it to 3 minutes. So I think we did a pretty good job. Let's talk DC United. DC United coming into the road, things not looking great. Maybe some changing opinions happening on this team. Things weren't, but before this, things weren't looking good. They coming off that really kind of ugly looking 4-3 game against Dallas, heading into this game, and they, of course, in true DC United fashion, just keep their noses in the playoff picture with a fairly, I don't know if we call it dominant, but a fairly, they were the better team and they were the deserved 3-1 winners over Toronto FC on the road, which is a good thing. John, give me some of I think we're seeing vibes on this team just shift. It's like all over the place. I feel like sometimes with this team, and I'm trying to stay grounded in this win because I still don't think this team is going to make the playoffs, and maybe next week changes that. We'll get into what's going to happen with the game against Chicago, but with the absences and everything like that, how close everything is, and kind of, the fact they're still missing David Schnegg, who we found out picked up an injury. We'll get into that maybe in a little bit too. Still not positive, but John, are you changing perspectives? Or are you still kind of where you were maybe last week?
I think it's fun to lose all perspective and subjectivity every single week. And when they win, have a good weekend and a good week. And if they lose, just chalk it off to whatever. That's sort of the way. So like after this, I'm like, this team has secondary scoring all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. That's cool. That's great. That's a new phenomenon that I think we should do more of. That's great. Sure. Was Toronto shorthanded? Yeah, they were shorthanded. So are we, but so were they. Toronto's not had a great season. We've had a worse season. But yeah, I think overall you'd have to say that things are looking up. There are things to take away from this game where you can think they could build on it. There are absences coming up next week, but we're also playing Chicago, who looked like NPSL side against Miami this week at home in front of 55,000 people. So if anything is possible. To your point about making the playoffs, we're right on the cusp. They're just all they want to do is make it so that you have a reason to pay attention in the last couple weeks, and they might do that. That's possible. I think, like you, as the season sort of winds down, we're going to find ourselves on the outside looking in. People will say it is a disaster season, and there will be many people calling for the head and say, "Oh, we've been losing for 10 years. I'm so tired of this." And that is true, and that is fair. But I think as long as this team keeps it close, keeps fighting, I don't think we can ask for too much more than that. Because I think at the beginning of the season, we said the likely outcome was around the playoffs, like around the playoffs. That was what we thought. But we also didn't predict that the MLS Eastern Conference at the bottom would be like a box of tangled cords, which is sort of what it's like.
Which is either a good thing or a bad thing. I haven't quite decided yet. Yeah, I think like you, I think the engaged among us, the people that know about, the changes with the offseason, what has surrounded the club, what the club's been up against the cap. I think most of us will be kind of okay. Like here, this was about, resetting some things. This was about running out some contracts. And now winter is where we can really start to see, what Ali Mackay's made of, what Troy Lesesne's made of. They can now get to kind of have more flexibility to build the team they actually want to build. The people who aren't as engaged, which again, not blaming you. I don't want to tell anybody, hey, I'm not going to force anybody to say you have to pay attention to what's going on with the team. You can pay attention at your leisure. But I think some people will be like, look, well, what's changed? We've been missed the playoffs again. Like, is anything going to get better? And our answer is maybe with this team. So, and I think this game was a good reminder, I think, that things are heading in the right direction. You see a team go up on the road. David Schnegg picking up, which we found out, picked up apparently a pretty significant, I think it was a hamstring injury is what Troy Lesesne said.
Calf injury.
Calf injury. So undetermined, we did not get like a specific timetable on that. Several weeks was the call. So he might not be back until, October. If we're lucky, is apparently what it's looking like. So that's still going to be something to watch, I think, with this team, is how they, navigate around that. Can they overcome that? Do they have a little more depth in there? Let's talk about the game. First of all, the good. You talked about, team scoring. I want to highlight even further. This game was about depth scoring. This is about, probably I would say the first time this year, the depth came in and actually made a difference in a DC match and led to us getting 3 points, which is something we have not been able to say about this team. The depth has been, this team has all been about, first 11s out there. They're going to usually get the lead, and then usually we lose it towards the end because then players get tired. This is their third match week. They've been playing 90 minutes straight. They've had maybe one or two subs you can throw in to try to hold the lead, but not much else. And this is the first time I feel like now we're starting to see, with all the changes coming in, with all the new signings coming in, now there's some actual depth to actually kind of build this team around. There's, at least some players, it's not, the death spiral of players not being healthy, and also players stepping up, which I think, was also a combination of this. So,
yep. And the fact that these happened all, they all happened in the second half, and they all kind of were grouped. Those are tactical changes and shifts made by Troy Lesesne, looking at sort of a pretty ragged looking defensive unit for Toronto, pretty tired at times. And they said, let's go. We're taking Benteke out of this game, but let's not change what we're doing as far as finding a target man, but also being very direct and having Badji run right at that back line and try to play him in. Badji almost scored, I think, again, I don't know if he was offsides, but almost as soon as he came on, he was a threat for goal. So, and I cannot talk without giving Pirani some credit because he scored a goal. I was talking, I think, in the Discord, maybe 60 seconds before that, got in the face of a Toronto defender and like try to put his hands up towards his neck and trying to bait him to fight. And he looks ridiculous doing that because he's very slight. And then literally a minute later, he scores a goal. So I apologize. Do what you need to do to get your head right, Pirani. I apologize. And then I think of the three, what do you think was the best goal?
I think it's the free kick. I think it's the well worked free kick there.
Oh, yeah.
It comes from a set play. Obviously Ted DiPietro picking up the assist. I think he had one maybe not so good moment in the first half, and I want to call him out specifically because I think we're starting to see old Ted start to come back. He was, in my mind, probably the best play, maybe other than Alex Bono, who I think came up with some saves. Offensively, he was the one, he had a couple nice chances, opportunities. That's what I want to see from him. I'm not, the conversions will get there. What we weren't seeing at the beginning of the year was him getting in those spots, getting those opportunities. And I think now we're starting to see him start to game, where he's going to get 2 or 3 good looks at goal. And then he's going to also be the setup man. He's it's a set play. So he, goes on the end of it, header right to Martin Rodriguez, who finishes it. So, again, I thought Ted DiPietro looked good. And I thought that first goal was probably the best of the bunch.
It wasn't close either. It's funny now. I think, let me see if it's in the rundown about Ted. Okay. Yeah. We'll talk about Ted's contract later in a second. But let's talk about, Aaron Herrera's return after 45 minutes. Aaron Herrera, after being able to be playing the second half of the 4-3 loss in the week prior, goes 90 minutes and looks like he hasn't missed a beat. I think that right side with him and Stroud, and then Koo, when he would sort of shave over to that way, which he does at times, he kind of has a floating responsibility. He continues to be, I don't necessarily want to say the straw that stirs the drink, but certainly a player that they can't account for his missing. When we have a right back or a left back missing in the game and have to shift, that's always completely evident, and there's not really a plan B. So Herrera is a player that I believe he has an option year for next year. As we're locking up players, I think Herrera needs to be one that we look at. And there's a question coming up on that a little bit later.
Yeah, and I think hopefully we hear either the options exercise. I think he will, he'll at least have that happen. I'm hopeful we're seeing contracts be kind of locked up where, and this is something I think that's giving me a lot of hope, is that we're starting to see this team, before I think one of the flaws of December. Well, let's pause a bit. I'll get into that in a little bit. I think with regards to the Ted contract and everything. So we'll pause. But Aaron Herrera is great. Like on the ball, like 90th minute, he I think helps kind of set up at least one or two good chances where he kind of overloads that right side. I think the third goal comes from him making that run in the 90th minute, overloading that right side and just crossing that in. The problem is they need a depth option for him. They need someone else in there because right now there's nobody. It's Dahomey again. Or
speaking of, he's not listed in the good of the rundown, but he absolutely needs to be. Once again, Dahomey, one of the Footbomb has a man of the match. I believe the color commentator had him as man of the match. He is so much more dangerous when you keep him away from our back line and give him no defensive responsibilities. He is 10 times the player when he doesn't have to track back, and he's able to focus solely on creating chances, breaking lines. Well, I'm trying to remember which goal did he have the assist on. He had the Badji assist, right?
Badji assist, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just really, really happy with what we're getting from him right now, and I think there's some more questions about him. What do we see as his future? He is getting hot at the right time for his own self, I think.
Yeah, I think there's a big question. I think we'll get into this a little bit, but again, creates the pressure, sort of wins the ball. I think what you're seeing is, a lot of people, he's not been the favorite player of many amongst the fan base. And I think it's been, him sort of having to play that role that he's not comfortable in. And I think we are seeing, and I think he would make the point where he would say, look, play me in my natural spot, play me where I want to be played, and I'll be good for you. And I think if you listen to Jason Anderson went on Pitch Pass the other day, and he was kind of talking about Dahomey, and he said, look, this league values speed, and Dahomey has speed. And like, if you have quick players, you're going to be, win a lot of soccer games. And so I think that aspect, people are talking about, looking at this, at what this team is going to have as far as the cap goes. I think ultimately you are going to see some players, go away. It could be both Dahomey and Rodriguez. I think a lot of that's going to depend on what does Mackay think he has sort of to bring in, and does he think that's an actual improvement?
And how good of an agent do Dahome and Rodriguez have?
Yeah. Yeah. So Dahome, looked really good in this game. I thought the tactical shift we talked in the second half, obviously the sub came in. I believe they subbed out McVay, I want to say, for Rodriguez. And I think that was a case of, if you watch a lot in the first half, they got some chances, but a lot of it was counterattacking, direct balls, kind of bypassing the midfield. I think, Rodriguez was kind of brought in there. You kind of you're not going to get a lot of aerial chances, even though they give up a goal on an aerial chance, but you're not going to get too many aerial chances. I think what Lesane saw was, we're not getting much aerial chances. I think we can put Patola in there as the second center back, and then we kind of shift Rodriguez in there. I think he was also maybe trying to trial it out to see what's going to happen to this team once coming up next week. And I think it's seeing how can Rodriguez and Click kind of pair in that little center midfield spot. I thought he was really good. Again, I think maybe he didn't, I guess, generate a specific chance or goal this game. But again, sort of being that guy who can sort of be a little more presence on the ball, kind of hold up the ball, sort of allowed DC to sort of develop in that midfield, and also, hold the press as well, and sort of create that short field that I didn't think they were really doing in the first half. So, any other, I guess, highlights you want to spot, or any players?
Let's talk about the fact that they give up a tying goal in the 82nd minute. And I think any 83rd minute, I don't think anyone in the universe was thinking, oh, they're gonna win this for sure. I'm feeling very confident that goal was a gut punch. You could see it on Alex Bono's face. Like, had given a great performance up to that point. The defense had been really, really stout, and then gives up. I'm trying to remember, was it on a corner? It was a near. I know it was near post.
I think it was in the run of play, or it might have been a corner kick. You might be right, but it was either a short corner or in the run of play, because the cross kind of comes from, beyond the corner line. But it's a cross in. Aaron Herrera tries to go up and win it. I'm not too mad at the goal they gave up. Like, I think there's you're not, any team is going to be sort of at the margins when it comes to defensive at this point. And DC especially is going to be in there. I'm not too mad at, I guess, the goal that they gave up in this game. It's, a cross over the top. They don't have height really in that center back line other than Bartlett. So I think it was a little bit unfortunate. I actually thought, I think there's a chance they can still come back in this game, because up until that point, they were the better side. So I was like, okay, we got 7 minutes. Badji's already broken through. They've been able to sort of establish that press. I think there's a chance we can come through this. Now, they very well could have not, but I was maybe a little bit less like, all right, we've got some offensive subs in there. Some guys have looked good. Let's see, this is an opportunity for them to see what they can do. So I guess it's easy to say in hindsight, but I wasn't feeling, I was disappointed, but I was like, I've seen enough to say this was still, a good performance. And the goal didn't bother me, I guess, as much. You're going to have situations like that. It's
more about being on the road and getting those last 2 goals. I think that's really more than giving up and having equalized. It's having the guts to continue to go for it too. Like, there's always a question of, like, are they going to be content with 1 on the road? Are they going to be? I mean, they shouldn't be at this point, but like, maybe they are, considering just sort of how bad things have gone. But they were pedal to the metal immediately. Right, they almost scored right after the fact. So, I think that's actually, it's in our bad column, but it's kind of a good.
Yeah, and then the only ugly moment I had, I think, has been Teke, 22nd minute, sort of has a 3-on-1, and
oh boy, I remember this now. Yes.
Yeah, seems to get caught of 2 minds as to whether he's going to shoot it or pass it, and decides I'm going to pass the ball right to the defender. Yeah, not a good moment. Could have been a moment where this team might have, gone up in this game. I would say probably the ugliest moment of this game. That was only the really ugly moment that kind of stood out. I can't recall anything like particularly ugly. That was sort of really bad, but maybe not the strongest game from Benteke. I don't think he really got many chances other than that.
The rare like not 85th minute substitution when he is subbed. He was actually subbed with some time on the board and no injury. So that's pretty rare. tells you how much this team has probably needed a Dambaji earlier on in the year, that maybe when Benteke wasn't at his finest, instead of just like, well, just keep on trying, I guess. Just keep on keeping on, man.
We don't have anyone else.
That's right. So it's just you. So I think that's probably notable. Not his best match, but we'll see. We'll see what maybe Chicago brings some more opportunities.
Yeah. So I think a good game. Anything else I guess we want to cover from this game? I think we've kind of hit all the main points. Good win.
Do you want to do the questions before the team news?
Let's I think we can maybe weave some of this in, but let's before we begin, we got next week against Chicago. I think this will be no Herrera, no Peltola, no Enau. I think there was going to be no Jeremy Garea, but Garea I think was dropped from the El Salvador roster, so he will be there. I believe we actually have a question. I want to pull this up. I think was from Brendan Cartwright. With Peltola and Enau out on international duty and Jackson Hopkins hurt, is it Jeremy Garea time in Chicago, or does Click play the CDM and Rodriguez plays the A attacking midfielder? I think that's what
Hopkins
you see.
is also close to return.
Yeah,
so he may be back as well.
I don't think you'll see Hopkins start. I think you'll see him definitely come off the bench, but my full expectation is that you are going to see Mateus Click and Martin Rodriguez. Something else I wanted to highlight as a good thing, goodness gracious, a great thing, is that Mateus Click managed to stay out of the referee's pocket. If he had picked up a yellow card in this game, he would have been suspended for the Chicago game. In my opinion, it would be even lower than what it is. You
had said you wanted to see him subbed off too. That would have been probably a good thing.
Yeah, I was like, well, the point we were up 2-3-1, I was like, all right, get him off. Like, we don't want any sort of, but I understand that, the nature to bring him on. I think it was 1-0. I was like, all right, let's bring on like a defensive minded sub. Let's like lock this thing down, and then we can keep Mateus Click. But very, very good for him. I could tell maybe there's been kind of some words down to him about, hey, you're on your last yellow. You got to be on your best behavior. Yeah. The Clickhousery that we've seen was maybe not there.
So also I've said it already. The Chicago played Inter Miami at home in front of a full Soldier Field, basically with no Messi, which is the second year in a row where they've had no Messi at the Chicago home game. They lost 4-1. They looked pretty good towards the end. They had 16 shots, 3 big chances. They had a 1.5 expected goals to Miami's 2.1. So I think one of those was an own goal. So I think, they were a bit stretched at times. The Taylor goal was a result of that. The Suarez goals was a result of a mistake. I was watching that sort of after the DC United game. So Chicago has been poor this year, but I don't think the 4-1 scoreline does not they weren't as bad as that scoreline tells them. And we're coming in there. They're coming. Is it in DC?
No, it's in Chicago.
So but it's not going to be in Soldier Field. It'll be at Bridgeview, because I guess they couldn't sell as many tickets to Inter Miami as they could for DC United. I can't believe it. Can't believe they've had to change that. It is. They said it on that.
Oh wow, it'll be at Bridgeview. Interesting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that there is overconfidence would be a mistake here with the absences you just talked about. I think there will be some tactical wizardry necessary here from that coaching staff to figure out how we can do this with no fullbacks, or with Pedro Santos again at left back, and nobody right back. So we'll figure it out. Maybe we'll go 3 in the back. Maybe
Dubs621 on Twitter says, who's going to play right back for her with a Herrera on international duty? And please tell me it's that Dahomey unless they're playing 3 center backs. I think we could see a return. If I was doing this, I think we could see a return to the 3-5-2 with, not with necessarily Herrera out there. I think we could see Stroud.
Not with Dahomey out there.
Dahomey out there. I think we could see Stroud kind of playing like that right wing back position. He can do that. I think then you have a choice. You either have Dahomey or Santos. I think maybe you play Dahomey, and then you kind of trust you're going to have your sort of your midfield kind of set with Rodriguez and Santos and centrally. Then you've got, I think then what you would need one more player in midfield. Probably be Teku DiPietro and Benteke, and then I don't know, maybe you throw out a Pirani, maybe you throw out some other type of attacker. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure what you do there, but it's going to be an interesting problem to solve. Again, MLS, please can we please stop the playing during international breaks, please? Like this is it's terrible. It's awful. I don't think there's any other way to describe it. So what would you do? Would you keep the same formation and try to work around it, or would you
The problem is you cannot put in a 4-man back line. You cannot put Dahomey there again after the even
Yeah.
though he was playing left back last time due to like chicanery, basically. I still don't think was he playing right back or left back? He was playing. I thought
he was
left
playing right back. He was playing right back. Left back, he's been okay.
better.
Like he's been okay. Right back, it's just clear like there's just something when you switch him to that side, he just can't.
I just don't think that you could afford to put him over there. I'd have to go with a 3-man back line and then maybe Stroud. I think Stroud has had to do that once or twice this year. I don't think he looked great, but we really don't need great necessarily. We just need no mistakes.
I think also you could play Santos there, and then you play, Dahomey sort of up in the midfield, and they can kind of share responsibilities. I guess my concern, with Santos is sort of placing him out there, kind of on that island. He's 35. He has the legs, but he needs to be managed, so to speak. I guess is the good way to put it. So.
Unfortunately for him, we're in the left back doldrums, so we're gonna ride him to the wheels fall off pretty quickly. Yeah.
So. We'll see. We'll see. I'm curious if we get an update.
If you see a hamstring pop on Santos in the next 2 games, start packing your cardboard box.
I do wonder what Connor Antley's status is at this point. If
I think he's on SEI. I think he.
Oh, okay. Okay. Is he on SEI? Well, they can bring him back. I think it's just a matter of do they have the cap space to do so. So I think there is a way they can sort of pull him back into the roster, and his salary can't be that great. So
no, it's not.
Yeah. So so we'll see. It's going to be interesting times. Let's get to some. There's another question I think I want to get here, and then we can maybe wrap up topics. DCU 96 at MLS Soccer 96. I think we've already covered. He asked about the playoffs. Says, should DC United have sold Akambone? That was a question that came up. During the transfer window, that Bournemouth were apparently trying to go out and get Matej Akambone. Apparently, they were not close to DC's evaluation, and DC said thanks, but no thanks.
And the offer was said to be from $3 to $5 million.
Oof. Wow. So that's interesting.
That means our evaluation is very high on him.
Yeah, so that's good. I hope they continue. I think they maybe have made it a little easier on themselves, the fact that they've been able to get playing time with him. So say, hey, you're still going to develop. We think, you're worth more. The timing could not be right. Maybe they did talk to Matej and he's like, I think I want to, maybe I want to still grow a little bit. I think there's still some room to grow. I don't know.
Speaking of the opposite of that, we have Christian Fletcher, who's off to Nottingham Forest, playing for the U21s. It's a loan with an option to buy, although he has been very, very adamant that his intention is to stick. He wants to go. The plan was always for England, and that's what he wanted, and he believes he can do it. So unlike Matej, who has not been agitating for a move, I think Fletcher has been for a while, and he really thinks that his route is over there. So that's fine. Good luck to him. We have a contract through this year and next year. The option to buy is very low. If it's what I saw on a Goff tweet, I think it was like 2.5 million. But as far as what he'd been able to produce for DC United, you can't maybe ask for too much. You needed to think about a sell-on clause as being your way you're really going to get money out of him and hope for the best.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, I think there was some news brought up about what his contract situation is, that it's up in 2025. DC has an option for 2026. So that, they're going to get paid if he leaves this window, if, Nottingham Forest are impressed enough with him. This feels like where Swansea kind of felt like, let's get your development. Let's get you some minutes. Let's get you some playing time. And then we don't have a next pro team. So this feels a little bit more. I think this is a loan for a year. And then there's I think in January is when the clause is there for them to say, hey, let's make it permanent. And then if they don't, my guess is he comes back. So it'll be worth watching. If he lights up the U21s, I think they play in a little bit of a higher level as far as their academy goes. So this might be a little bit of a step up. If you watch some of the score lines from the Swansea game, there wasn't a lot of defending going on there. So I'll be curious to see how he does with these U21s. He won't be making a start, but I think there's a chance he could be in there. And I agree with you. It sounds like maybe he is more look, I'm not getting the playing time here. I've been injured, but it's time for me, to go, or I'm going to be a very unhappy person. So,
And
figure out a move.
It's worked for Griffin Yao. So I think there's a pathway there. You'd hope, in an ideal world, you have a player that is able to accept. You really want the Kevin Paredes. If there's any sort of path you want to have repeated, it's break in, get your feet wet, start to excel, start to really, really become like a really, really dependable player, and then make a big step up in your career and get a good financial return. That's what you want. More often than not, DC United typically has a player that they are unable to get to that middle step. They're not able to become a week in, week out starter for DC United and contributing. They skip that part. They go to like break in, do some cool stuff, and then fall off and then get sold. And that really hurts you on what you're able to get in return. But players are not being kept here hostage. I think that's important when you look at how the academy or youth development is envisioned here. At least it's not a you don't get to leave no matter what. We're gonna ride your contract out for every option we got. So at least there's that. Speaking of, you mentioned Swansea too. Wanted to just close the loop on player movings. Tyler Miller, a player I have said now for a month and a half, is out of here. Was attempted to be loaned to Swansea, but it didn't work out because he didn't have a passport and he couldn't get a work permit. There's still a possibility they get rid of him or loan him elsewhere, just terminate his contract. He wants out. Contract up this year, but I assume that will happen. I think they'll probably terminate the contract here pretty soon.
Yeah, I think it'll be a question of, does he? I think does he find somewhere else to go? Is there another team out there willing to sign him for next year? Is it USL level? Is it maybe some other level above that? Maybe San Jose comes a knock in. But again, his contract is up this year. He is free to sign wherever he wants. He has a 6 month. I believe it's within 6 months. So I think the team is like, look, just let us know, and we'll just release you from that contract. The classic DC way.
The work permit stuff is so European protectionist. Like, listen, you're good enough to play, and we want you to play, but we want to make sure that Jeff Bridgerton from Colchester United has his opportunity to move up the pyramid. So sorry, Tyler Miller, you can't come in here and play goalkeeper at Swansea.
Yeah, and then I think the side of good news is Teku DiPietro has apparently re-upped his contract. I think this is very good news, and I think this is one of the utmost like positive things I think I've seen. Where this is a team that could have said, I think in years past they have sort of pushed off these conversations, and they've said, well, we don't need to get into this now. We'll come to you, at a later date. Luciano Costa is a great example. He apparently went into the front office, I think, after the 2019 season. I think still had a year left on his contract, and was like, "Hey, guys, I want to, I want to be signed. I want a new contract." And they were like, I don't think so. I think we're gonna wait on that a little bit." And I think this is a positive. If this is a move away from that, from that Casper era of like kind of waiting until that last moment, I am so happy, because that has been one of the most frustrating things about. If I had to pick one frustrating thing about Casper, is that he always wait till last minute. But Teku DiPietro, U22 deal, he will now count against the cap, so that is maybe a minus, as he right now does not count against the cap because he's on his original homegrown deal. But it allows him to get paid, allows him to be whole, allows him to be satisfied, and he counts less against the cap. This was really, and they really had to do this. This would be the year to do it, because otherwise he's above 22, and then I'm not sure what exactly happens or how that works with the U22 deal. But they're able to get him in there. It's a use of the U22 slots that I think we'll see. Those players that aren't ready maybe for that jump yet, but they are certainly good enough that you can sort of keep them in the league and allow them to get paid a little more. So one of the more interesting things to watch. Of course, we did it when bringing back Chris Durkin last year. So one of the more interesting things. This is the first player that sort of moved up from that homegrown contract into that U22 slot.
So the only benefit here for the club is that there's a reduced budget charge. Typically, the whole benefit previously was that you want to use this spot on an international acquired player with a transfer fee, because the transfer fees didn't count on the amortized salary cap. So
also the other benefit here too. Sorry to interrupt, but the other benefit here too is that if they sell him, they keep the whole fee. So they don't have to do any sort of like, paying down, or, they can convert it into GAM. I think they can still do that if they want, but they do get the whole fee if they sell him. So that's the other benefit of doing this. If he has like a breakout year next year and like pushes through and is like a best 11 player, and then the Europe calls start coming a little more fast and furious. So yeah, so
MLS needs to absolutely seriously get rid of the not 100% of all transfer fees being kept and paid for by the club. That is they've got to do that. You were saying before that unless he was not on the under 22, they wouldn't get to keep the whole transfer fee.
I think he wouldn't count as a DP, so maybe not. But I think I don't know. It's MLS has some wacky rules. There's been a lot of.
So now it is. Just want to make sure that a club shall receive 95% of all corresponding transfers or loan fees from any transaction after it has recouped all out-of-pocket cash payments made by the club in connection to that player, if applicable. So that has now changed. So if they even do that, they still wouldn't be able to get that. So the real benefit is not having that. And this is important for a team that is salary cap constrained, or in the past has been, is making sure that you use every single mechanism that lowers that cap number for players you want to keep. You can't be mad at it. Does that means we now have one more under 22 spot?
Yes.
That we can go out and spend on however we want to spend as far as the transfer fee goes, if we want to.
Or we can buy down, if we only want to sign one DP, we can do the 2-4 and we get the $1 million in GAM. So a lot of things to talk about. We'll probably cover, once this starts coming to fruition, we'll probably start covering, a little bit more about what this team is. I think we're going to have
Ali. We're going to ask for Ali Mackay 1,000 times from the front office in the off season. That's going to be my winter project.
Yeah.
Good luck.
We'll definitely do that. Good luck to us on that one. All right. So yeah, I think that covers all of it. I don't think there's really anything else to cover. Let's wrap up some of these questions. Todd Dudge on Facebook, is Dahomey worth keeping now? I think Lesane would want to. Positive energy type of guy. I think salary is going to be the key for him. Where is DC on the salary? Where are they on the cap? I think it's also worth mentioning, what is, where is the team as far as like scouting, and where, what is Mackay thinking? Who does he have? Because, again, yes, you have transfer windows, but you're always looking, you're always talking to players. You're always trying to see, what might be there. You're always trying to, have conversations. And, I think entering the window, then, who you want. And which players you're wanting to sign. So I think that's going to be the key with all these players as to who they bring back, who they say goodbye to.
Sport Trek has his salary for this year at $965,000 at the age of 30. So you're looking at age 31 deal. Typically, you want to raise. He's gonna be in a position where he's looking for more money because he has had his now best season for DC United this season, coming into his free agency. So. I think out of the two, Martin Rodriguez previously, that wasn't asked here, but those are the two that sort of get grouped together. Two players making near $1 million. I think he wanted to go to Colo Colo, and I think Colo Colo said, I don't think it's going to work out for us. So I think that you might be in a better bargaining position with him than you might be with Dahomey. Dahomey probably has suitors in MLS at in different places for around the money he wants. So
yeah,
we'll see.
DCU 96 did ask, if the situation occurs, DCU have to pick between Martin Rodriguez or Click coming back next year. Who would you rather have? I think the position and salary is going to be key there. I'm high on Rodriguez. I see the benefit he offers. I think he's one of those players that there's not anybody else on the roster that can do what he does. So he looks very good because of that. No one else really has that sort of calmness on the ball, that ability, to sort of control the game. I think Borracino might be the next player that you'll see that maybe has that type of ability. So I kind of look a little bit kind of like, yeah, he looks good because no one else can do that. And so it kind of like, when you're standing in a room, when you're standing in a room and you watch, I think you're kind of getting some, I don't even know what the phrase is. I've completely lost the train of thought, but you get the idea. You get the point of what I'm trying to say here. So, I think go ahead.
I would take Click 10 times a week. Out of those two, I think you can find. I think Martin Rodriguez's are a dime a dozen. on the market. I think you can find him at that cost.
And then there's the question from Richard Rolson says, if DC and I were able to convince Matthias Klick to come return for another season, but on a TAM deal, would you take him back for one more season? Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that's going to be something to watch. Can they do that? Is there an option to say, hey, he's happy here? Maybe you can convince him a little bit. Can you get him sort of into that TAM deal? Because I think after the contract's over, like, and you re-sign him, then he doesn't. You don't have to factor in that salary or that whatever you paid for him to sort of come here. So
he's making 1.9 this year.
That's close. You're close. I don't know.
He was making $2 million a year with Leeds for his contract there. So he took a bit of a pay cut to come here. Very small, but there's precedence now. So maybe. What's that? Is it 1.4 is the floor for TAM?
I'll have to.
It's something. I think it is close though. I think to your point, it is something that's reasonably possible.
Yeah. Can you restructure that contract? We'll look up. Google's not being helpful as far as we will look that up for you to figure out what that floor is. Question, and Richard asked us, which I think we'll hold. Richard's last question is about contract for 2025. I think we'll hold a little bit on that. Maybe we'll get once the season's over, we'll get more details about that, Richard. But appreciate the questions, guys. I wanted to make sure we got into those. Let's go into the Washington Spirit. I think will be next. 1-1 draw against the San Diego Wave. Of course, the big story coming into that game was Corey Bethune picked up a knee injury. I think we're all kind of holding our collective breath, especially those that are aware of Corey Bethune's injury history. Blew out the same ACL 3 times. So we hope it is not that situation. We didn't hear anything to the effect, but I don't know. Have we gotten any clarity, John? Have you heard anything? You're a little bit more closer.
I've not been on any of the media calls. If it were serious, the many good beat writers of the Spirit would have let us know by now. So I think I might not. I don't think it's serious necessarily. I don't think we've not heard any sort of like major concern yet. She could be going to get second opinions. Who knows? We'll hold off on the concern right now. We won't even speak to it. We won't even speak. I'll just say that both her and Hal have not looked in their one game the previous week did not look as sharp as they did before they left the Olympics. I think going a month without playing real matches is a struggle. So that there's something to be said there. Just working back into the fitness and working back into the team. So hopefully it's not serious though.
Yeah, hopefully it is not serious because I don't think, I think the Spirit can survive without Corey Bethune, but man, does it make their attack just a little bit. This game, I kept figuring out, I was like watching the game and I'm like, and maybe this comes, Lacey Santos, I think maybe is the, she's going to need time to adjust. She's going to need time to be in there, but the Spirit just kind of looked, it was like predictable, I guess is the way to describe it. Like, it was like, you were even watching the game, and I'm not an elite soccer, where none of us here are elite soccer players, but you can tell when a team is better, but they just don't have that kind of that player that's out there who maybe sees something that nobody else on the field sees and can make that pass or make that move that really kind of generates, the opportunity.
I think Trinity Rodman was that player for the Spirit. I think I don't have the stats in front of me as far as expected assists, but she put probably 3 or 4 balls on platters that should have been goals.
Including one that Sarr just whiffed on, like just swing and a miss, like a baseball player. Like,
Rose had a breakaway where if she touched the ball to the left, she would have either gotten a penalty kick or she wouldn't be able to score, but she just basically pushed the ball forward and then ran into Sheridan. That was a missed opportunity. Lacey Santos hit the crossbar once. Sarr had 2 pretty straightforward misses that should have been goals. There was a opportunity where Rodman played a square ball and Sarr looked into position, but Gabby Carl took the shot instead and pulled it left. This is a game they should have won. I think that to your point, they did not look nearly as dangerous as they did against Kansas City. Croy's absence could be a part of that. I think that they just did not look sharp in possession. They looked very good on the break and in transition. I was impressed by that. The goal they conceded. So obviously the first goal was an own goal. Rose also scored another goal, but was offsides. So there were looks, but the goal they scored was an own goal, was a clearance off of the face of a San Diego defender into the net, which is not the way you want to concede an own goal if you are the defender. and then off of a corner. I
This
hate just not a very good corner. There was a little bit of a pinch towards the like outside of the 6 towards where the corner was being taken. Andy Sullivan probably a step slow to close in on the goal scorer. What was the name I don't have in front of me, but is the
it's McCabe. It is the
also
one who
the player
scored who scored the own goal.
yeah, that one she liked a lot better. It was a lot less painful. But just they did not look very dynamic on their corner defense. I think to your point about looking back on things, hindsight being 2020, you always look static when you concede a goal on a corner. I think last week when or off of a set piece, I think of Dom Baji standing on the back post as the goal gets scored on that. So you always look at it afterwards like, Jesus. But they were, I again did not get a chance to listen to the post game press conference. If the little bit I know of Jennifer Alves would tell you that he was very, very annoyed at that, and probably was also annoyed at that being wasteful. I'm not sure. We have yet to see because it's been so short, and we've not seen disappointment before. We've not seen what this coach will do with performances that were somewhat uneven and making a change. Like, does Ashley Hatch get a run out after a decently wasteful performance by your number 9? I don't know. We don't know how he operates. So I guess that's something to look out for. And we get to find out very soon because they play on Saturday.
Yeah, and just here talking, I obviously will contend that that Trinity Rodman created opportunities. Again, she also, I felt like there were times she cut in, and then faced up a shot, and it was like you could just telegraph. The shot was telegraphed, like you just knew that the shot was coming. So that, that those were just kind of the things I talk about. And that's something I think Courtney Bethune brings. She has an ability to see that pass. Maybe that isn't there. I will agree. The breakaways, like they should have had a goal at least or two. I think the XG ended up being like something like 1.58 XG. So, and they generated, I believe, like something like 14 shots on target and a lot from inside the box. I think at least 12 of those were inside the box. But that also tells to me that looks like almost like a very wasteful, like you're not picking the correct opportunities to actually generate better chances. So that's the one notion, I guess, from this game is I feel like their shot selection maybe was a little bit off today, where they weren't putting themselves in opportunities where you can have sort of high, your high sort of chance opportunity, your high XG chance opportunities, to where actually like, getting a goal on 1.58 XG is not necessarily like a poor, like necessarily a really poor, like if it was 2-3 and you're only scoring one goal, then there's something, there's something to that. But
do they count an own goal in the XG number?
No,
probably not, right? So
probably not.
Should have had 1.5 of their own.
That's true.
Paige Mateer had another good match. I'm not going to say it was because I spoke to her last week, but it could have been that's why. Had created 3 chances from right back. Okay, this is a good spot for her to be in. 84 touches, 2 in the opponent's box, 13 passes into the final third. Defensively, she was 3 for 5 on tackles, 1 block, 3 clearances, 1 interception, 10 defensive actions and 7 recoveries, 5 duels. So great back to back. Great start for her and right back.
It's almost like, Gabby Carl plays kind of that traditional sort of right back, sort of playing wide on the field. She's going to kind of cut in. What I noticed about Paige Mateer is that she plays right, but she almost plays a little bit inverted where she kind of cuts in. And I think that creates a lot of problems for teams that, when you have a player that kind of cuts in, you can kind of create overloads in the middle where you have multiple players that are trying to mark, and that opens up spaces for other sides. So an interesting, like, I think it's been something that, I'll be curious to see how it develops. Do teams finally, figure out a way to stop it? Because I think right now what you're dealing with is there's not a lot of tape on it. So you have, when you have Paige Mateer making those runs in the middle, she kind of cuts inside. Her goal comes from literally, she scores it from, I think the edge of the what is it? The penalty circle. I can't even think. Wow. Right at the edge of the 18, kind of near that ellipse. And, that's not a place where normally like a right wing back is going to go. And I think also it helps that you have a player in Trinity Rodman who likes to get wide and kind of cut inside, when she gets outside the box. So you kind of create space in there where she can kind of maneuver in. So interesting thing to watch, kind of how she's sort of bringing that. She's playing right back, but she's definitely like cutting in centrally. in a lot of cases too.
The thing to watch there too is that since that's been the case, Hal has had 2 ineffective games where she's not put any sort of effect, and I think that's because when Paige moves forward, Hal drops, which is what you need to have happen when that. So that's something to watch with that sort of setup on the right hand side. What an advanced right back does to Hal's ability to do what she was doing before in the attacking side of the game, being more of a factor that way. Lacey Santos, I think a decent performance. Obviously, could have scored. I think she made 2 or 3 really nice passes around the box that generated chances. I think she's still not all the way there yet. That's what Jonah said after the Kansas City game, that she's still well off where she's going to be when she's all the way fit. I think it'll be interesting to see if, fingers crossed, Croy is not gone for the long term. What is the Rose and Lacey link up work after they get an opportunity to really, get that opportunity down, get that relationship down. Casey Kruger made a number of nice overlapping runs on that side. The stats did not like her performance, but I think that I saw her get in dangerous positions a couple times as well. So I think this is a game they should have won. I think that they would believe that too. They're next. They're going to play a Portland team that lost 5-4 to Kansas City, which is a game that I have to watch the highlights of because I didn't even know that was the score. That's bananas. Wait, is that right? Is that correct? The Thorns, who did they play last week? We got to check here. Footmob maybe.
They played Gotham. They lost 2-0 to Gotham.
So that's old. That's an old number. Good, because that was insane. Who they play? They played Gotham and lost
2-0.
Okay. No, that Gotham played Orlando this weekend.
Is this Saturday? Nope, never mind. That was I think they might have been off.
They played North Carolina.
Oh, they played Bay FC. They played Bay FC. Sorry, it says Friday. Bay FC, August. Google, this is like a weird way to do they have their schedule from right to left. It's bizarre.
Kansas City played the North Carolina Courage on September 1st, yesterday, and they lost 2-1.
Yeah.
Temwa scored again. Yeah, I think that this is you were talking about the Thorns. Yeah, yes. I think that this is a game that they're at home. If Croy is back, I fully expect this team to win. If she's not, I think they've got to figure out how they can be more dangerous from more angles and not be so wasteful. The reason why they were able to win the Kansas City game is because they were extremely chance efficient. And you saw the exact invert of that and then what the outcome was. It wasn't a loss, but it certainly was points dropped, I think.
We should also mention, by the way, they have broken their single season goals record with that own goal. They have 37 goals on the year, which apparently has broken their single season goal record for that. So that's cool. And I think also, I mentioned about this game, this was an opportunity for them. Casey Current lost, Gotham lost. This was an opportunity for them to kind of separate into that, make and really put a lock on that number 2 spot. They would have been 5 points.
Orlando. Orlando's out of here. Yeah, don't even worry about them.
Orlando's good. I think we're shaping up. If Spirit hold on to that second slot, you're looking at potentially you get home field advantage through the playoffs because the championship game is a neutral site. That's going to be a really entertaining match against the Pride. But yeah, the Pride are running away with it. Just a stout defense too. 37 goals, 35 goals for, 12 against for them. They have literally just a lockdown. That would be a fun in WSL championship with the Spirit. It's the literal, the unstoppable force against an immovable object type of game.
My plan is to go. It's November 23rd in Kansas City, which I may be at a conference and I may just end the conference one day early and go do that.
Yeah.
It would be crazy if Kansas City were to be able to make it. They're not that far off. That would certainly be it. That would make the game a little bit more intense. But Orlando is they're a machine. Barbara Bandit with 12, Temwa with 14. It's
October 6th is when the Spirit next have their game against the Pride. That'll be on the road. So that'll be
woof.
That'll be a fun match.
I wish it were at home. I don't.
Maybe we can hand them their first loss of the year. So
let's hope. I'm sure there'll be people on Twitter. We could troll the Orlando City guy.
My days of that are over. Anyway,
he's a Pride fan, believe it or not.
Who's that?
He's the guy we're talking about. The guy on Twitter that always trolled you. He's Yeah, he's
Oh,
a
yeah, he
Pride
is.
fan too. Of
Oh, he's
course
a
he
Pride
is, because
fan.
they're like undefeated. Of course, I'd be a Pride fan too.
No, he's cool. He respects the game. Some of the other fans in Orlando don't necessarily respect the game. Anyway, he's a cool dude. But yeah, let's anything else I guess I want to cover? I was trying to think if there's anything else. Obviously the Spirit next game coming up. We'll see what they do. Again, I think that's going to do it. Thank you guys so much for listening. It's always a pleasure to do the show. We actually got the show within an hour, so we're not, completely blowing up. We got questions in. We're on it, man. We were on it today. I think
That's right. I blame / give credit to Ted's doing a rundown versus our normal extemporaneous free jazz episodes where we just sort of go with the flow.
We're gonna work on that. I think the last show was a little rough, and I wanted to maybe just narrow it a little bit.
The hour 40 minutes broke Ted's brain. He said, "Never again. No one's commute is that long. We're not doing that again."
Yep. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for listening. Again, patreon.com/RFQRefugees. Think things are. I want to be honest, guys. I have fallen off the bandwagon with previews. I definitely want to get back to it. I promised a bunch of stuff, haven't delivered. I'm not promising anything.
Don't promise it.
Things personal life, nothing bad, but just busy. So be on the lookout. Probably off season. I'm sure I'll get inspired to do some stuff.
But
so.
our Patreons did get a Paige Mateer exclusive episode last week. And I think they might have gotten a Esme Morgan exclusive in the last couple weeks. So DC United, those days are over for interviews. But if you like the Spirit and you want to join our Patreon, you're gonna certainly get some stuff that people are gonna get before anybody else.
The days aren't over, but when you're doing weekly shows and everything, it can get a little bit. I
meant interviews, Ted. I didn't mean the articles. I meant talking to Jackson Hopkins about whatever.
Yeah, that's it. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll catch you guys next week. Vamos.